At Crimson Lights, Nate and Amy tell Denise Tolliver they appreciate her taking their case. Denise says this is the third time Devon's pulled her out of retirement. She has an address in Los Angeles for Damien, but the next move is up to them. Amy tells Nate, "We found your brother." They learn that Damien is living in an apartment building in a decent neighborhood. Amy asks if he looked healthy. Denise didn't get that close a look. Amy says her heart is beating out of her chest. Denise warns that he changes jobs and homes frequently, they shouldn't wait too long. Amy pleads with Nate to go. At Daniel's apartment, he and Lucy watch as a man wheels out some boxes. He says, "That's the last of it." Lucy cries, "Goodbye, Mom." Phyllis comes in as they're hugging. She asks if the boxes in the hall are the last of Heather's things. Daniel confirms it. They needed to do it on their own. Phyllis sits by Lucy and asks how she's doing. Lucy's sad that her mom's not there and worries they've erased her. Daniel says that was just stuff and it will go to a good cause. Who your mom was and what she meant to us, that's right here. He gestures to his heart. Phyllis says he's right. It will help to move on if they're not surrounded by Heather's things. Lucy isn't feeling closure yet. Just sadness that she's not there. Phyllis hugs her. At Sharon's place, she thanks Nick for coming. She needed to talk to him. He asks how she's feeling after the last hypnosis session. Sharon's mind is racing. She wants to do hypnosis again today. She asks him to stay. Nick agrees. Sharon has so many questions she needs answers to, and she can't wait anymore. Nick worries that the last session took a lot out of her. It also made her see there could be more. She has to do this now. Nick says, "Ok." Alan arrives and asks if she's ready. Sharon needs to fill in the blanks. Alan wants to be very cautious. If they're successful in bringing her back to the night Heather died, she could be reliving some particularly traumatic experiences. Sharon needs to know what happened. All of it. At Daniel's place, Phyllis suggests they all go out to lunch. Daniel thinks that sounds good, but Lucy is tired and wants a nap. Phyllis assures her she can call her to talk anytime. Lucy thanks her grandma. Daniel tells his daughter, "This is one of the hard ones. In the future, things will get better." Her mom would have wanted them to move on and live their lives. He touches his heart. She's always going to be right here. Lucy goes to her room and Phyllis tells his son he's the best dad. She's really proud of him. Daniel also wants to be a good son and asks what's bothering her. Phyllis suggests they take the conversation elsewhere. Michael arrives at Sharon's place and she assures him she's ready for another session. Nick worries it's too soon. Alan says sometimes not knowing can be just as damaging. Nick continues to advocate for waiting until she's stronger. Alan warns Sharon she may not remember anything. Sharon is willing to take the risk. Convinced, Alan says, "Why don't we start?" Michael pulls out a legal pad as Alan hypnotizes Sharon, hoping to send her back to that night. In Crimson Lights, Nate tells Amy he'll go to LA on the next flight out. "Pack your bags. Get ready to see your son." Amy thinks it would be best if he approached Damien on his own first. He could be really angry when he sees her. Nate points out he doesn't know him. He'd be a random guy showing up out of the blue claiming to be his brother. Amy continues to fret. Nate asks, "What is it? What's wrong?" Denise says she'll be at the athletic club. They can call when they're ready to make a move. After she's gone, Nate asks Amy to tell him why she's hesitant to travel. She claims it's her health. She doesn't feel up to it. Nate needs her there to establish the connection. He knows she's nervous, but they have come this far and can't let this chance slip by. Amy's afraid. Now that finding Damien is a reality, it means she'll have to tell the secrets she's kept from him his whole life. "I think he's going to hate me for it." At Society, Phyllis tells Daniel she wants his advice on something regarding her future. She explains that Billy is going to fight Victor to try and get Chancellor back and wants her to help him. Choking on his wine, Daniel says, "Of course he does." "Wait, what did you say?" Phyllis says she refused to be part of it. "I did that because of you and your sister." She doesn't want to jeopardize anything. Daniel peers at her. So, what's the problem? Phyllis just woke up this morning thinking she made a huge mistake turning Billy down. At Sharon's place, Alan asks her to go back to the night she drove to Daniel's apartment. Sharon feels anxious, scared, and angry. She wanted to hurt him. She blamed him for the accident that killed Cassie and wanted him to suffer. I was going to poison him. Alan asks what happened when she got to the apartment. Sharon says she picked the lock, got in, and poured the poison in the whiskey bottle. But she couldn't go through with it. She knew it was wrong. Sharon says she poured out the whiskey and cleaned up a glass she broke. She was headed out the door when Heather arrived. Sharon made up a story, but Heather knew it was a lie and kept pushing her. Alan asks if she felt rage. Sharon felt desperate to get out of there. Alan asks, "Where was Heather when you were trying to leave?" Sharon says she was at the front door, locking her. Alan asks what happened after she pushed Heather and she fell. Sharon says, "I called out to her." She remembers the room spinning. "I feel dizzy. I can't focus." Alan asks if Heather was unconscious the whole time. Sharon recalls, "She got up. She said something to me. You are out of your mind." At Crimson Lights, Nate tells Amy he's not judging her. It's a big deal to tell the truth to her son. Amy worries there will be no coming back from it. Nate asks if she could live with the lie and be at peace. He points out that Damien might be grateful to know the truth and to have another opportunity to be with her and tell her he loves her. Jackson will still be Damien's father in every way that matters. He reminds her she wanted nothing left unsaid before she passed. This is that moment, Amy. At Society, Phyllis tells Daniel that what Jill and Victor did to Billy was unconscionable, and they did it to Lily too. They blindsided Billy, so why shouldn't he fight back? Daniel says it's his fight, not hers. Phyllis was right alongside him. It was her chance too. Jill made him fire her for no good reason. She hadn't felt that way since she was running the Grand Phoenix. Why not go for broke? She needs something, a direction, a purpose. She's been all about her kids and this Sharon thing. She will fight that fight, but she needs something else. Like he and Lucy need closure, she needs something to let her move on to. At Sharon's place, she confirms that Heather was fully conscious. It's hazy after that. Alan asks if she passed out. Sharon flashes to Heather watching her as she struggled to focus and made her way around to the other side of the sofa. She yells, "I remember. I remember." At Crimson Lights, Amy agrees to go to LA with Nate. He tells her he'll make the travel arrangements immediately. She warns that when Damien feels cornered, he runs. Nate will be prepared for that. Amy's trembling over them being this close. She practically given up on ever seeing Damien again. Nate will make sure this works out for her. Amy thanks him with a huge hug. "You're the best." She heads off to pack. Nate pulls out his phone and texts Audra. "How do you feel about a trip to Los Angeles?" At Society, Daniel thinks Phyllis should stay out of Billy's plot. It's an insane and impossible idea that he'll take Chancellor back from Victor when his wife is running it. You don't need this in your life. Phyllis needs something. Daniel argues, this is not it. He reminds her she's talented and will outwork anyone out there. Phyllis could say the same about him. Daniel asks, what if there was a way for us to work together on something? They could create something new and exciting. Phyllis says yes. Daniel is glad he talked her out of the crazy Billy idea and advises her to just stay away from him. Phyllis thanks her son for giving her a lot to think about. Daniel leaves and Phyllis picks up her phone and texts Billy, "Can we talk?" At Sharon's place, she agonizes in her chair. Alan asks what she's seeing. She flashes to a gloved hand gripping her shoulder. Nick wants to intervene, but Alan calms Sharon. Sharon says, I pushed her down, but she got back up. Alan asks, Heather? Sharon says she moved away from her. She looked scared. I couldn't move. My legs got really warm and weak. She thinks she fell back down on the couch. She flashes again to a gloved hand grabbing her shoulder and cries, Oh my God. That's when I heard a noise. Heather screamed and fell to the floor. She hears Heather yelling, "No, no, no." Alan brings Sharon out of it and wakes her up. "Welcome back." Sharon looks for Nick, who asks how she feels. "You remembered everything." Sharon knows she did, but it doesn't make sense. Heather fell after she was on the sofa. Did she trip or fall? Suddenly she realizes, "I didn't do it, Nick. I didn't kill her." Michael grins. Next on The Young and the Restless. Tessa falls into a trap. Ian encourages Jordan to play dirty, Daniel keeps up appearances for Lucy, and Nick worries about Sharon's safety.